What's good, you animals? Jake here, dumb as ever. And remember Medabots? It was a cartoon that popped up in 1999 on Fox Kids. And I remember watching it and enjoying the concept. Basically, in this world, personal robots are super popular. And they're used to row-battle, aka battle. It's kinda like Beyblade or Yu-Gi-Oh! Where super serious stuff is solved by children's toys. The show was about Iki and his partner Medabots, and it featured a ton of cool robot designs, as well as some truly stellar animation. What you might not know is that the Medabots anime was based on a video game series. The first game came out on the Game Boy in 1997, seemingly following the hype that Pokemon had created. The game series had 9 mainline entries and countless spin-offs, and yet when the anime was brought over to the West, the only mainline game they put out was Medabots for the Game Boy Advance, which was a remake of Medabot 2. They even released Medabots and Rokusho versions to add to that Pokemon comparison, though the gameplay is nothing like Pokemon. To me, it seems like the show was brought over to promote toys more than video games, which makes sense. The character designs are not only very cool and toyetic, but the actual show is about kids buying these robots almost like they are really advanced toys. Still, I feel like the show fell off because the toy line largely seemed to fail, and the series' video game presence wasn't very strong here either, so it's kind of weird in that regard. But in today's video, I mainly wanted to discuss the toy line, because I actually grew up with a fair number of these toys, and I have fond memories of them. The Medabots line was originally created by Takara, and then imported over to the West by Hasbro, though Hasbro did create some of their own toys for the line, in the form of deluxe action figures that stood around 6 inches tall. They weren't very poseable, but the sculpting was great, and you could take off their arms and heads to swap parts like in the show. Each one had a few action features. For example, Medabots had a launching missile, and you could twist his body so his leg would spin around as a kicking attack. By the way, Medabots' design is actually peak. I've always loved the look of those large blaster horns, and his expressive green eyes really endeared him to me. I had the deluxe Medabots figure, and I also had a figure of Rokusho, who was the other mascot character of the franchise. His sword would do a little scissor pinching attack when you press the button on his arm. There was also Sumilodon, who has a retractable Wolverine claw. And filling out the line was Cyan Dog, Pepper Cat, and War Bandit. This deluxe action figure line was called Dual Mode in some places, but some fans believe this to be a mistake, because Dual Mode sounds a lot like Dual Model, which was the Takara line of figures that let you build your own Medabots, giving you a die-cast skeleton figure, as well as armor pieces to attach to it. The armor pieces would come on runners like a model kit, and you would have to apply stickers to give them their details. The first 4 dual model kits were brought over by Hasbro as build your own Medabots kits. These kits featured the same play pattern as the Japanese toys. I can't figure out if the Hasbro versions of the skeletons still feature die-cast metal. If you ever played with the Hasbro version, please let me know. The Hasbro line of course had a Medabots toy. The skeletons were fairly articulated, but adding the armor pieces greatly limited them. It kinda reminds me of the FNAF Indo series in that way. There was also Rokusho, as well as Arc Beetle, which was one of my favorite Medabots. And there was also a kit for Sumilodon. There was a large electronic Medabots toy, which you could control with a remote. His design looks a bit weird with that red on his chest, but I think it's based on a later form he has in the show. The main toy line I wanted to discuss in this video actually features the smallest figures. These 2.5-inch figures came in single or double packs, and you could separate the arms, head, chest, and their lower halves, providing the ultimate mix and match experience for the line. These were also the figures I had the most of as a kid, because my local Dollar Tree sold them, so I was able to get a ton and my mom was happy to buy really cheap toys for me. I had so many of these guys. Some of my favorites were Multicolor, Mega Emperor, Stingray, Ace Horn, and of course Medabots. There was a game you could play with them. All of the figures came with these little barrel-shaped dice, and there was even an arena playset, but I never had any interest in whatever the game was. I was far too enamored with the figures themselves, as well as the play pattern for them, and there were also many variants of each figure, so there really was a lot to collect. I remembered these things quite a few years ago, and I was astonished to learn that these tiny figures I would get for $1 each in like 2004 or whatever, cost damn near $30 per figure on eBay. Sadly, after doing research, this price isn't that surprising. These Medabots toys in general are expensive. I do wonder if the line had more than just sales issues, like maybe the distribution was terrible or something. I'm not sure. I'd love to hear from an older collector on if that was the case. I will say there are even more Medabots minifigures that were released only in Japan, but I really wanted to focus on the American Hasbro releases, mostly because I know these toys better, and there isn't a ton of documentation on YouTube regarding them. Let me know what you think about Medabots in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.